People who've had sex with celebrities. How was it? I know a girl that hooks up with Hannibal Buress every time he comes to Milwaukee. Edit. They met on Bumble and she said he's very sweet guy. My friend ducked the dude from the WoW Vine with the girl vaping. I remember Vanilla Ice's answer to the question what was it like to sleep with Madonna. He said it's not like she had a golden PSSY. Someone I know says they slept with Britney Spears. She had to sign a NDA. Edited to add gender of said friend. My dad dated Sarah Wayne Callies Laurie Grimes from The Walking Dead in high school. He defines her as a very nice girl. Truth be told, I don't think he remembers much of that relationship. But she came to our house party once when I was a kid and she was always really nice to me and my sister. Edit. I think it's worth mentioning the irony here. She was only around when I was a kid. Once or twice when my parents would throw house parties. Being 8 or 9, I just thought of her as another adult there and didn't really care. But when I was 13 to 16 and became a huge Walking Dead fan, and never saw her around after that, I was so disappointed. There were points me and my mum would be watching the show and my dad would walk in and be like, "You know OP, I dated the actress who played Laurie." "Yes dad, I know. If only there was some way to meet her." Knew someone who slept with Leonardo DiCaprio. Apparently he kept his headphones on the entire time. Back in the noughties, a mate of mine used to duck Shaggy every time he would come to Melbourne. I think he probably made 2-3 trips down here. We'd all make a big deal about her disappearing for a few days to shag Shaggy. She had nothing but nice things to say about him. She knew she was nothing but a bit of side poon when he was in town. I'm picturing that they were both buck naked banging on the bathroom floor. My grandmother dated Jimmy Carter. Not sure how physical things got, but I've read a few of the letters he wrote. I only post this because I can't think of any other reason I would get to bring this up. The girl in the video that corporate gave us. Daryl banged her. I knew a girl who was an escort. She had sex with Derek Jeter. Afterwards he called a limo to take her home. In the limo was a gift. It was a baseball signed by Derek Jeter. Jenna Jameson kissed me on the mouth at a strip club in Ohio. That's all I got. That's all I got. Count yourself lucky. A friend was part of an actor's studio playhouse in the 80s. She said Jeff Goldblum has a huge DCK and is an amazing lover. They did it a few times but he let her down easy because his career was taking off and he was crazy busy. He was really cool and remembered her years later. Alec Baldwin was also hung but was super hairy and sweated a lot. Like, it was dripping into her mouth. It was too hard to ignore the sweatiness for her to enjoy it. But he was hilarious. Very bright and smelled good. Kerry Hatch, the bass player from Oingo Boingo, would scream, "I'm coming," loud. Edit. Correction from my friend. Kerry Hatch was the drummer back when they were together. He broke her heart. Post Malone asked my ex-girlfriend if she would be interested in going home with him under the condition that she would have to eat his ass. If there is one person's ass I would not want to eat. Ex-ducked Twiggy Ramirez of Marilyn Manson around 2000 or so after a show. Apparently it was alright. His DCK was huge, but it was over quick and then he kicked her to the curb right after to do coke or something. And yes, she was underage. My mum had sex with David Lee Roth. She said he smelled like sour milk and put his dirty hat on her head. Put his dirty hat on her head sounds like a euphemism. I hooked up with Randy Newman's son. He said I had a nice vagina. I guess you could say that. He had a friend in you. My ex slept with Till from Rammstein after a gig once many years ago when she was a gothlet. She said he was very respectful, mildly kinky, wanted to have sex on the hotel balcony with her bent over the rail over the city so people could see, and apparently had skin as soft as a baby. Apparently he was nice. Bought her breakfast the next day. Invited her back for a second sesh the next day, then moved on in his tour. She said 8/10 would star duck again. Knew a girl who ducked Zac Efron. Had to sign an NDA. Told me he wasn't all that great in bed. I.e. the fantasy was better than the reality. Still fanboyed over him hard apparently. So much about that NDA. I ducked a chick who was in a Target catalog. It was hot. Cutting a hole in the Target catalog doesn't count. A woman I worked with had a one-night stand with Captain Obvious from Hotels.com, whom she met at a NY jazz club. She pretended that she didn't recognize him in order to prevent being seen as a gold digger. She was hoping to get into a short-term relationship with him and hopefully he would give her some money and buy her a Lexus, which she really wanted. Later she found out that he wasn't Captain Obvious. Just looked very much like him. I used a gender-neutral bathroom with James Franco. We made eye contact and smiled at each other when we were washing our hands. I did not sleep with but did a little more than made out with Drew Barrymore October 07. It was rad. A friend of mine slept with Perez Hilton. Would you be surprised if my friend said the sex wasn't very good? Edit. Perez Hilton the gossip blogger. Not Paris Hilton the heiress. Too many people think I meant Paris when I wrote Perez. On a trip to Vegas, one of my friends effed Michael Jordan. She said it was painful and fairly fast. She won't ever stop talking about it. My wife's grandmother dated Ted Bundy. Said he was a wonderful and charming guy. A friend of mine had sex with Paul Wesley. She said it was pretty good. He also took her on a short getaway trip. Seemed like a very nice guy. Ended up getting her a gift candle that was the scent of his cologne so she can remember him. A girl I went to high school with dated Jason McCuneo aka Wee Man. Shortly before Jackass 3 came out. He visited her family in WI around Thanksgiving time. But he hated WI so much that he paid her best friend to drive him to the airport in the middle of the night. I guess when he visited he was WI man. A friend told me Victoria Justice gave lap dances to some of his friends at a party the year she signed on for Victorious. Was it Dan Get in the Van Schneider? Close to 20 years ago, my roommate hooked up with a suicide girl who came to our apartment to stay for a few days. She kept name dropping all these celebrities she knew like Slash and Trent Reznor to the point we were like, why are you lying? Then she pulled out all the pictures of her with various famous musicians. Apparently she was the secretary to someone famous for producing music and that was how she met all these dudes. Well, she was in a relationship with Maynard from Tool at the time and she left him to come live with us for a while because apparently sex with Maynard was just really ducking bad. She later left my roommate for one of the drummers for Slipknot because he bought her a house in Texas. My roommate worked for a grocery store and just couldn't compete with the money. She did assure him that the celebrity sex was still bad. It was purely for the house. Slept with the lady that used to do the morning news in my city. This was at least 15 years ago. She is a blanket stealer and puts her cold feet right between your legs when she wants them warmed up. Now everyone knows Cassie. My nana was in a serious relationship with Nash of Crosby, Stills and Nash. The kid who plays Greg in the Diary of a Wimpy Kid movie tried to duck my girlfriend. That's about all I got. A co-worker's sister slept with Chris Evans before he was famous. Same town. She worked it into every conversation she could. 'Cause why wouldn't you? Edit. She got America's DCK. Edit. I love that this is by far my most popular comment. Thanks for all the awards. Not me but a friend of a friend went home with John Mayer after a party in LA. Apparently, when things were getting hot and heavy, he asked her to sing his songs to him. When she said no, he then asked if he could pee on her. She again said no and went to the bathroom to take a break. She came out of the bathroom to see him leaving. She went into her bedroom and saw he peed all over her bed. She said it was one of the worst nights she's ever had. A friend of a friend slept with Shawn Mendes. Apparently it wasn't something to write home about. Edit. For everyone asking, the friend was a she. I know a lot of people have questioned his sexuality, but it's something he's came out and said makes him feel very uncomfortable. So you're saying he didn't leave anyone in stitches? Friend of mine met Tiger Woods while bartending a golf charity tournament he was attending. He took her back to his hotel room and tossed her salad and had unprotected sex. This was several years before he crashed into a mailbox and divorced his wife. I know a married woman who has a child that looks just like Tiger Woods. Not unusual except for the fact her and her husband are white. The kid isn't. And she was one of his booty calls. I saw Danny DeVito cursing out a cyclist who nearly wiped him out getting out of a private cab once in San Fran. Was almost as good as SX. Girl I know slept with G-Eazy in 2015 before he was really big. He gave her chlamydia. LMAO. I'm starting to figure out people who bang celebrities and on Reddit. My sister drunkenly kissed Keanu Reeves on the back of the neck. My sister ducked Drake. I walked into her room like 10 years ago and she was Skyping him. I waved to him and said hi and he showed me the studio he was sitting in because I was skeptical. Pretty cool. I guess they met up after his show in the city we lived in at the time and then never spoke again lol. Edit. She signed a NDA. I did not. Well, if this thread has taught me something, it's that celebrities are riddled with STDs. A buddy of mine dated a celebrity of American Pie fame. A certain foreign exchange character. He has my eternal jealousy but was a gentleman on the details. I did get to meet her and play poker at her house though. So there's that. It wasn't SX but I did beat her at a couple of hands. So that was cool. Then she cheated on him with a dance show partner. Disappointing all round I think. Edit. My buddy is a Redditor. One of the few that I know of IRL. So I am curious to see if I hear about this. Friend girl of mine bang screwed an NBA player. The only detail I remember was that he was adamant about taking the condom with him when he left. Update. No child left behind. Yes. Crazy groupies will indeed try to impregnate themselves with used condoms as a lottery ticket. Players are instructed to never leave their men behind. My friend bragged to me about getting banged by Tone Loc. Funky cold Medina guy. She was 18 but seemed proud of it. About 20 years later we were watching old videos and Tone Loc came on and I asked her about it and she said it sucked. He didn't shower after coming off stage. A little smelly. Drunk and gave a few pumps and was done. Edit. Thanks for all of the comments and laughs. My friend was young and really didn't have much to compare her night with Tone Loc to. Fast forward a few decades and she now realized it was not that great. No, we never slept with each other and that is good because I would not want to be compared to Tone Loc. I will let my friend check out this feed and see if she gets a chuckle also. He barely did the world thing. Not me. But a girl I knew slept with some F-list reality TV douchebag. He quoted himself off the show as a chat-up line and then again after he came. She described the experience as embarrassing, but not sure for who. I hooked up with the drummer of Slipknot when they were in town. Twice. I was working at a strip club and he wanted lap dances. He paid me to do a lap dance for like, at least an hour. It was a ton of money. We bonded in conversation in that time. He invited me to hang out at his hotel, which I was still naive enough to not know if that just meant hanging out. I liked him though. We had fun. And he put me on the guest list. I went to his show the next night. Went backstage. Checked out the tour bus. And then met him at his hotel again. For the answer to how was it, he was good. It was fun. Edit. No. I'm not the suicide girl in Texas with the house. What you don't realize is the amount of NDAs floating around out there lol. A friend met Matthew McConaughey in a club in Miami. She went home with him. Said it was meh. Before AIDS was a thing. A friend of mine slept with Christopher Walken. He was in town for one night and told her that's all they'd have. She was fine with that. She said he was a perfect gentleman and a very sweet lover. He kept telling her how beautiful she was and made her feel like a queen. Edit to state that the mention of AIDS was only to date the story. I should have just said it was in the early 80s. Thanks for the awards and all the comments. I thought this sweet little story would get buried. I have no more information. She's a lady and didn't talk about it more than I posted. This was nearly 35 years ago and she still adores him. It's nice to know that some celebrities are decent people. And Duck the Del guy of dude. You're getting a Del fame when we were in college. If you know who the Del guy is. Slept with Western Kentucky's mascot after a drunken day at Churchill Downs. She refused to keep the head on. Still 10/10 experience. Yes. The big red blog thing. I slept with a well-known, now deceased, rapper when he came to Toronto a couple of times. And I stayed at his place in California for a few days as well. The sex was good but it wasn't any better than a non-celeb. He wasn't selfish in bed at all and it felt natural cause we got along. He was actually really down to earth and fun to hang out with. Mac Miller will be missed. I got it on with a star of a popular 80s sitcom. She rocked my world. To protect her anonymity, I will refer to her only as B. My mother had a one-night stand with Conan back in early 2000s. They met at a bar somewhere in Texas and he bought them a hotel room. O'Brien? Or the Barbarian? My grandma kissed Tom Petty. My mum dated Macho Man Randy Savage. She went on one date with Steve Perry. From Journey. My favorite story though is that she used to hang with Willie Nelson and smoke it up with him. She still goes to Bandera all the time. I didn't get details. Thank goodness. But from the gist I get, she had a pretty good time with Randy Savage but wasn't all that impressed with Steve Perry. I slept with a very famous and still popular rapper from Memphis. The sex was surprisingly good. He was very attentive and affectionate. I thought he'd be arrogant, but he was cool and made sure I enjoyed myself too. You say no to Ratchet PSSY Juicy J can't. I shook hands with Penn and Teller then went back to my hotel room and ducked my wife. I was smoking weed with the bass player from Belphegor after a show and when my girlfriend called he politely asked if she would suck his DCK. Upon learning it wouldn't happen he graciously accepted the no and we continued talking about metal. One of my best friends met Jared Leto at a concert, not 30 Seconds to Mars and went back to his hotel with him. They banged. And he's since texted her for a booty call when he was in town again. I believe they also SXT on occasion. Edit. I used to send her articles on all of the A-list celebrities he's hooked up with. Oh look. Your Eskimo sisters with Cameron Diaz, Scarlett Johansson, and Paris Hilton. Edit 2. Thank you to the commenters who let me know that Eskimo sisters is a derogatory term. I'll be sure never to use it going forward. My wife has been in a couple of TV commercials, and I'm hoping that she will have sex with me one day. Soon. Please. Edit. I'm glad everyone is enjoying my dead sex life. Thanks for the rewards. I've never got one before. I don't know what they are good for, but thanks. Great until they kicked me out of the wax museum. A friend slept with the lead singer of City and Color when they were touring university campuses in the early 2000s. She bragged about it to anyone who would listen. Gave her the old sleeping sickness. I used to know a dude who claims to have met Amanda Bynes in the mental hospital rehab. They dated for a while. He said she was very unstable and clingy and honestly terrifying to be with. I wish I could remember some of his stories. That's so sad. She always seemed so sweet and down to earth in real life. When the news broke of her having such bad mental health issues, my heart broke for her. I hope she's doing better now. I ducked the mascot for Hamburger Helper. Same. I knew this girl who tried to duck Anders Holm but wouldn't since he's married. I knew this other girl that Hannibal Buress tried to duck, but she wouldn't since she's gay. Whack. Third Eye Blind came to my college and a girl in my dorm banged the lead singer dude on the bus. David Castaneda plays Diego in The Umbrella Academy. This was YYY before he was as big as he is now. He was in New Mexico filming a movie. I forget what it was called, but it was an action movie. He was such a sweet guy and talked about how excited he was to be filming movies and that he couldn't believe that was where he was at. Glad he got bigger. Really a great guy. Edit. I stood 2 feet away from Ethan Hawke in Tulum, Mexico at the restaurant Heartwood. And that's the closest I've been to a celebrity's genitals. I worked in DC for a congressman when Brad Pitt came to talk to Pelosi about his charity. He nodded at me when he walked by me in the rotunda. Nodded. Some girl in my high school was one of the girls at the club that got picked up and ducked by one of them Jersey Shore dudes. I saw her on the TV and almost died laughing. Thanks for the votes. I'll Facebook her and tell her she's Reddit famous. My ex dated Russell Brand. Unsurprisingly, she said he was kinky in bed but very respectful. There's this long-standing rumor that while Timothée Chalamet was attending NYU, he gave a lot of people chlamydia, and with the amount of accounts from NYU students to corroborate this, I'm obliged to believe this. I talked to a girl once outside a music venue and we got to talking about the same topic, celebrities and shit. She said her friend had sex with Atreyu from the Neverending Story. They had sex on the beach somewhere in like Costa Rica. I was like, that's cool. I bet he's kinda attractive as an older man. And she was like, yeah, he was hot. But he gave my friend herpes. And I say, well, I guess that's her Neverending Story. A celebrity I've masturbated to liked one of my tweets once. I won't say who. Thing from Adam's Family once gave me a hand job. I once made eye contact with Henry Winkler in the Phoenix airport. He nodded and smiled. I came in my pants right there in front of Hudson News. It was the greatest moment of my life. I briefly dated, and am still friends with, the actor who played the leader of the Wolf Pack in the Twilight films. I'm not going to name names, embarrass him. But he's also an actor on Banshee. It was perfectly normal yet solidly great sex. Though it was extremely surreal because my memories of him up until very shortly before that point were of his scenes in movies and shows I'd seen. That said, it got way less surreal pretty fast and he was just a normal human being who happened to have an interesting and exhausting life. All in all, a very positive experience. I know at least 5 people who've slept with Tom Cruise. All male. Edit. I ducked Tony the Tiger. He was very flaky after. Was it great?